All right, we are live. Right now, we are live right here on LinkedIn. Nick, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's happening, Gunnar? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the show. So we talked last week, had a great conversation. Don't get to have many of those where I just kind of talk to people offline before we do an actual show. So it was nice to get to know you before we actually come and do this. So thanks again for coming on and having that conversation.
Yeah, man, of course. I think I roped you in the same way I rope in a lot of people. You engage with some of my LinkedIn content, and I use it as a way to have networking conversations. So that's how I got you initially.
I think a lot of people should move to that, though. I like I told you, I've been doing the same thing. If somebody reacts to one of my polls or if they comment on something, I'll just hit them up in the direct messenger, and I treat it almost as an inbound lead. Lead, whether it might be connecting or networking or whatever it might be. So I think you do the same thing. Did I lose you?
No, I was still here. I was just saying people like need to do that more often. You know, like I didn't start doing that until I didn't get active on social media till like spring 2020, like winter, spring 2020, when like COVID hit and we were on lockdown in Chicago, and I was just like looking for different ways to engage with folks. So I got really active on LinkedIn. I started reaching out to people who engage with my posts, and a shocking number of the people in this industry are willing to just jump on a phone call with you and like chat for half an hour. So like if you're not doing that, you probably should.
Yeah, the amount of networking you can do just through, and like you said, the amount of people that are willing just to have a conversation through a comment on LinkedIn. I would say if you sent out 10 requests for people that are, VP of sales or directors of sales or salespeople or whatever it is in logistics, 8 of those people will most likely say, yeah, man, I got 30 minutes for you. What do you want to talk about? Well, when are we doing it? Like, they just want to talk.
Oh, yeah.
Love to talk in this industry.
Yeah. I mean, particularly if you're like you or me and you already put out some content, if you're reaching out completely blind, then yeah, it's a little bit more of an uphill battle. But like if you've got some stuff out there and people can kind of look you up a little bit and see what you're all about, yeah, like I might be a little bit lower than your stat, maybe like 5 to 7, but still like that's at least 50% of the people I reach out to say, yeah, man, cool. Like I'll jump on a phone call with you. And like the value of having that increased network is huge.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So Nick, kind of tell everybody, if they don't know who you are on my channel or my audience, a little bit about you and how you got into logistics.
Yeah, so I've been in logistics for the past 10 years. The majority of that was in brokerage, and over the past couple of years, we started up Kinetic. And what Kinetic is we're consultants for freight tech companies, right? So we provide some general strategy consulting for freight tech companies and like fractional support services for sales, marketing, and customer success. And are you still there? I'm the only one in the screen.
Oh, yeah, you're good, man.
It just pops in and out. I got you.
Your own channel. You're good, man.
Okay. So the way I got into the industry, I mean, that's a story in and of itself. I used to be a lawyer in my 20s, and like long story short, realized it wasn't going to be a good fit for me long term. So I actually tried to shift into like any sales position. I wanted to get into medical device sales, but I ran into this weird problem of being both underqualified and overqualified, right? Like no one wants to hire the 29-year-old attorney for an entry-level sales job because I figured I'd bounce in 6 months, and I had no sales experience. So no one's going to hire me for like a more advanced sales job. So I ended up selling office supplies for Quill for like 6 to 8 months. And then I just fell into logistics from there. And I got like a lot of people, I got hooked by it. The fast-paced dynamic environment of the first brokerage floor I worked at, like I was in.
Yeah, logistics is crazy. And like I was telling you, I didn't even know what it was when I started my job. Like I had a WWE tryout and had an opportunity from a guy named Johnny Jones who said, hey, man, you want a job? And I said, I don't know what it is, but sure, I'll take it. And that's kind of how I jumped into logistics. So it's crazy all the different ways that people find this industry. I've mentioned this several times with people that have came on, and there's so many weird stories that have a little bit of overlap. And it's usually, they didn't know really what it was. They didn't understand freight brokering or logistics or anything, but then they get into it and they have that hustle mindset. They're go-getters, they're competitive, and they're goal-oriented, and they want to see progression. And those people seem to kind of take off in logistics. And from my experience, it's athletes, military, cops, anybody that has structure in their life. Those are the ones that I seem to think have the best careers in logistics. So what are you doing right now? Well, your day to day, like what's your day look like?
So my day to day right now is very different than it was in my brokerage days. It's like we're consultants, right? So it's a much slower pace, and I advise technology companies on like their sales and marketing strategies, along with a little bit of their customer success, so like how they go about training their brokers customers, and then like building out some of their training collateral and housing it within an LMS that we built out.
Okay. So I guess as a consultant, you're working remotely at home right now?
Yep. This isn't my home. This is a background, but sure. I'm at my home right now.
I got you. And how many people are with Kinetic right now?
We're small. We're a team of less than 5. We've got myself and a couple other folks handling the day-to-day. We've got a marketing partner, and we have a couple strategic advisors who kind of pop in and out as needed.
Okay. So I'm assuming that's probably higher margin company, with it being, I guess the amount of people being a little bit lower. I think that consulting, coaching, online education in any sort, whether that's not knowing what you're doing and going and get it from somebody that's done it, or trying to figure out some way to learn something new, seems to be the new way of educating yourself. And that's not going to change in logistics either. It's big in the business space, but I feel like it's been slower to get to logistics. Is that kind of what you were noticing when you started Kinetic? Is
consulting in general?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like for us, kind of like the impetus of starting Kinetic really revolved around our brokerage days, when we would kind of have these demos and engage with a lot of these tech companies. And the reaction that we had a lot of the time was that they struggled conveying to freight brokers how the technology was going to impact their day-to-day. Because they're very different types of companies. You have your technology companies who, I mean, I'll generalize way too much and say it's a lot of Silicon Valley folks who are doing like amazing things. They're very smart people, but a lot of times they just don't understand the day-to-day of brokerage. And then on the flip side, again, I don't like calling brokerage just kind of stuck in their ways and behind the times, but like sometimes they are. So like that divide is really tough for freight tech companies to get across. So we just work with the tech companies on helping with their messaging, helping with their sales, to figure out how are we going to sell this to a broker in a way that actually makes sense to them. Because a lot of times it isn't, look at all these cool features. It's, hey, this feature is going to help you get more freight on your board more quickly, or help this individual ramp so that they're more productive more quickly. Because like more freight and more money are the two things that brokers really care about.
Dude, freight is king. I say it all the time. I mean, you can have the best operations team. You can know everything about putting carriers on loads. You can be the best track and tracer, but if you don't actually have the freight in the system,
oh yeah,
there's nothing really for you to do as a freight broker.
Yeah, I mean, like all the hypothetical freight in the world is amazing, but like you need freight on your board.
Yeah. So salespeople will always be, at the top of the chain when it comes to logistics and 3PLs and freight, whether you're on the asset side or a brokerage side. But it's interesting that you're going through and you're kind of helping give that message to the people that need freight tech companies. Because honestly, the people that do sell it, for the most part, speak over your head. They don't speak in a simple enough way to where most people in freight brokerages can understand how it can put freight on your board in a simple way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even, I'm not a tech guy. I don't have a tech background. I mean, I get my customers make fun of me constantly for the fact that I don't understand basic things about technology. I'm just a freight broker. But a lot of times it's not even over your head. They're just speaking about things that are important to them, not about things that are important to you. Right. Like you don't necessarily care about how cool and advanced their artificial intelligence is. I mean, if that was your field, I'm sure you'd be able to understand it, but does it matter to you as a freight broker what's going on behind the scenes? Maybe to your CTO it does, but to like the sales manager who's going to use this product, man, he doesn't care. He just wants an opportunity to get more business. And how is that technology going to do it for him?
Yeah, a lot of people try to sell us different lead generating softwares and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I understand how I think you might get this information. I don't really care how the information gets here. I just want to know that when I call a number, most likely somebody's going to pick up. Like, that's why we're paying for the information. We're not paying for like the best looking information. I don't care if it comes on a yellow notepad. Like, what's the best numbers to call to get someone to answer so that I can get a decision out of somebody. That's the biggest hurdle in logistics, is just whether you're lead generating or carrier generating, whatever it is, it's just getting accurate information. And there's so much of it these days. It's hard to figure out what is good, what is bad.
Oh yeah, there's definitely like information overload. I mean, there's so many different technology vendors out there. It's hard to tell. I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell what one does just by looking at their website and then trying to figure out which one you need amongst like different competing categories. I mean, it's tough for a freight broker.
Yeah, no, it is. And there's a lot of niches out there in the freight tech space. Like you've got some that go out there and procure you carriers. That's interesting. We're actually messing around with one right now.
How are you?
Yeah, cool. And we'll see how that goes. But it's supposed to grab information from like emails and build lists. How this stuff works, I don't know how it works. But if they can pull it off the way they sell it, good for them, man. I mean, I wish I was smart enough to be able to code some stuff in the background that pulled a list.
Yeah, likewise.
What roads they drive on based off of email addresses. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, like I don't have a technology background, so again, a lot of the stuff, just like you, man, it's kind of over my head or just not my area of expertise. Yeah. So like my job is just kind of translating that to how is this going to help a freight broker during their day to day, right?
So I guess if you're talking to the tech companies, if you're to get the information to be able to explain it to someone else a little bit simpler, it's almost like a buffer. It's like they're giving you the sales pitch that they would go to a salesperson or to a company to try to sell them with. And you're like, well, good job, but that doesn't matter to a freight brokerage. You need to sell them on this, this, and this. Is that what you're doing as a consultant?
Very similar.
Gotcha.
Like a lot of our messaging work is them coming to us and saying, hey, we're going to talk to this freight broker about all of our machine learning. It is going to be amazing. They're going to love it. And my reaction is, no, they're not. They're going to get super bored in this demo. It's going to be an hour. And it's going to be machine learning and artificial intelligence. Please just tell them how it helps them make more money.
So and that's really all it is. That's what all brokerages want to know. They just want to know not how it works. Just tell me exactly how it's going to create cash flow. How's it going to put revenue in the system? How's it going to work? Will this pay for itself? Will this pay for other employees? That's the questions that we ask. We don't ask like, oh, the bells and whistles look awesome, but why am I spending $25,000 a month for it?
Yeah, and like there are a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways to increase like load count and profitability that brokers don't even think about. I mean, technology is one area, but at the same time, like reducing your cost to serve, or even just like training, right? Training is a big one. You want to make more money, train your people better. They're going to negotiate better. They're going to understand the industry better. They're going to be able to talk to their customers more intelligently, and you're going to have less churn because they actually know what they're doing and see value in being at the company. So like training is a big thing that I've been getting on a soapbox about recently.
So Nick, when you jumped over to Kinetic, how did you go after customers? Did you go to like freight convention or freight tech conventions? Did you have people that you already kind of had your eyes on because they've been trying to sell you when you were a freight broker? What made you think, all right, I need to go in the tech space. I need to be like a buffer for them. What made you think that?
Yeah. So if I answer your question about how do I get customers, that's a really interesting question, actually. That ties into what we were talking about previously with the social media. Honestly, a lot of my customer connections have come through social media and outreach on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
I kick myself every day because I would have made so much more money as a freight broker if I'd gotten on social media earlier. Because again, like I can reach out to like key stakeholders at tech companies, and more often than not, they're willing to jump on a phone call with me. And it's not that hard to at least to like plot out the general map of freight tech companies that cater to brokers, identify who I want to talk to, reach out to them on LinkedIn. And like the stat you mentioned earlier, at least 50% of them will jump on a phone call with me. Put in a little bit more effort than that, and you get up to like 80%. So like that's my main method of customer outreach and onboarding.
I gotcha. Very interesting, man. It's just, what's the space like? Is there a bunch of competition in that space when it comes to consultants for freight tech companies?
In this really specific niche, no. I mean, I don't want to say that we're the only ones doing this, because that's kind of self-aggrandizing, but no, like we're fairly specialized in terms of who we work with. There are other consultants out there more generalized in the transportation space. Like we have a good relationship with the folks at Metaphora, and they do amazing things for all sorts of transportation companies. And I know there are a bunch of other like smaller, more niche players in the consulting market too.
I gotcha. All right. Well, hey, let's backtrack off the logistics a little bit.
Yeah, man.
What's up? How's life? How's everything going in Chicago?
Life's really good, man. It's raining out here, so I got that going for me. But other than that's good. I got 2 kids. They're 7 and 4. They're both back in school, which is amazing. Like having them running amok all the time in the background is always a challenge. So a lot of respect for the people who are working from home with children. It's a whole different ball game. But yeah, man, things are good.
Couldn't imagine. So my little one, he's 6. He's in school now, in 1st grade. But over the summer, he was pretty much in our office almost every day.
Oh.
But so like my room, if you could see out this way, it's like our training room / conference room / our sales office. Like, he's got a TV and he got all these wrestlers and got this table over here. He's good. But then there's like those 3 hours throughout the day where the guys want to mess with him and they want to play around with him and they get him wrestling around and get him all fired up.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting anything done right now. All right?
Oh, I'm sure.
Somebody needs to do something. But.
Yeah. I mean, like candidly, this is more information than you need to know, but whatever. Like having 2 kids was one of the reasons that I made the move to Kinetic. I mean, like I was previously running a small brokerage in Chicago, and like, brokerage, it's a really demanding job, and it's very time intensive. My wife's an attorney, and we got to like summer of 2020, and like I was going to have to go back into the office at least part-time. And it just wasn't realistically going to work for us. Like we had no childcare. So I had, like, I guess I'd say the luxury of being able to take kind of the summer off, chill with my kids, like hang out with them in parks instead of like finding a new daycare for them. And at the same time, getting Kinetic up and running part-time. So it sounds silly to say that COVID kind of worked out timing wise pretty well for me, but like it did. Like that's a major part of why we got Kinetic started.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I've heard that story or similar stories from a lot of people. It's like COVID was a blessing in disguise, And it got a lot of people out of working jobs they didn't want to work and becoming an entrepreneur, creating jobs for other people or creating their own business. And they seem to be making more money or being as successful or more successful right now. And they can kind of dictate their own schedule. And that's huge for a lot of people.
Yeah. Like the flexibility is huge. Like being able to pick them up whenever I need to, take them to doctor's appointments whenever I need to. Candidly, my wife does most of that, so I shouldn't throw that one out there. She'll get mad at me. But yeah, like the flexibility is huge, and yeah, man, like I'm having fun doing what I'm doing, just as much fun as when I was brokering freight. But brokering freight's fun. Don't get me wrong. It
is fun. It is fun. It's I wouldn't know anything else, to be honest with you, as far as like not being around an environment like this, to where you hear the phones ringing all day and you've got the interaction between carrier sales reps and the truck drivers. And then, the guys are coming in here in and out, talking about customers or dealing with, I seriously wouldn't know what else to do in business. Like all I've ever done is logistics. It's been football, pro wrestling, logistics.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what I know. I'd love to try things, but this is all what I know.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, like what it takes to be like good in the industry, be successful within the industry. And like one thing I'd add in there is like you have to be okay with the pace, and like it's a very unique environment because it's not like you're just given a problem and then you're given like an hour to figure out the solution and then you got to go back. It's not your typical office job. It's just everything needs to be done right now, and some people love it, some people hate it. And like I just happened to be a person who really enjoyed that environment. It was so different from what I'd been exposed to in the past. Like I get into my first brokerage, everyone's screaming at each other. There's problems everywhere. And my reaction is just, oh my God, this is a job. You're going to pay me to do this. This is amazing. Of course I'll do this.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit different than being an attorney. I would assume going from, law to, a little bit different, a little culture shock there.
Yeah. I mean, having just listened to my explanation of why I enjoyed brokerage so much, you can probably imagine why I didn't enjoy law.
Exactly. So I can't get them to tell the jury. They don't accept that. They won't do that.
Yeah. Here, let's delay some stuff. This is gonna be great.
Yeah, they'll hate this part. Yeah, wow.
Let me file some motions.
That's the biggest thing, though. Emotions are huge. So let's talk about, you big into fitness?
I am actually. Yeah. I've been a fitness buff, probably since I was like 12 or 13. You know, my dad was like in the Olympic trials for weightlifting. And I remember him sitting there, like watching me do front squats as a kid, like behind me yelling ass to the grass. And it's just like, I got hooked on fitness stuff. I wrestled in high school. I did martial arts stuff my whole life. I never got into more traditional sports like football, baseball though.
So martial arts, what'd you do in martial arts?
So like any kid, I did Taekwondo for a long time as a kid, but I kind of branched out into some like Jiu Jitsu and Kung Fu stuff in college.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you ever get into Jiu Jitsu? That seemed to be, not as big 10 years ago, but it seems to be huge right now. Like my little one, he's in Jiu Jitsu. He does that in the summers, but he also does a little bit of wrestling. Like those sports are great for kids when they're young. If they want to keep doing it, awesome. It's great to learn how to defend yourself at such a young age.
Oh yeah, and it like gets you into the routine's the wrong word, but it gives you structure, right? Yeah. It shows you what it takes to progress in a sport. Like I think it's fantastic,
Well, you got the belt system when it comes to martial art. You get to level up. You don't get that in many team sports. You don't get like a belt system for your team doing great. You get like a trophy or whatever. And I never really played many individual sports. I've always been a team sport guy, but I think individual sports are good for kids. I think it lets them learn a little bit about who they are and what they want to be.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything in my life that's missing right now, like I haven't done martial arts stuff in a long time, probably since I had kids, specifically since I had kids.
Yeah.
But like I miss doing that. I miss the competitive aspect of it. I wish I had time to get back into it. Like I know you got to make time for things, but I've kind of prioritized some other stuff.
Right. Yeah. Some things do take priority at certain times. You said your dad was an Olympic weightlifter. So, I mean, you're looking at probably a bunch of like cleans, snatches, Olympic lifting, stuff like that. Did you ever get big into CrossFit?
No, like I got into it briefly in college. So like early 2000s when it had just started out. Because like in my jiu-jitsu class, there was a bunch of like law enforcement folks. And like that's when like they had just started getting into it. So I did it with them for a little bit. I'll never forget this one guy. Like he was an air marshal. He walks in with this shirt that says like, "We'll smoke you like cheap crack." And I'm like, "What's this about?" He starts talking to me about CrossFit. And I did it with him for a little bit. It was genuinely terrible. Like everything about it was terrible, but I had fun doing it.
I never did the CrossFit. We always did it in college, very powerlifting based, like squats, deadlifts, bench, go as heavy as you possibly can. Do some bodybuilding on the side, maybe do some plyometrics for athleticism, right?
Yeah.
And then when I got out, I always wanted to look better than I felt as far as my strength goes. So I wanted to look like I was as strong as I was. So I got into kind of like bodybuilding, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Those type of workouts. I just don't really see a reason to go out and like kill myself doing CrossFit. When I played college football, it's like I killed myself enough doing that. I ain't trying to go like push myself to the absolute limit doing some CrossFit as a middle age.
Yeah. I mean, like I got to the point probably in college where like the lifting and stuff I was doing was really just to supplement the martial arts stuff. Like I never, like after high school, I don't think I would have considered myself a serious lifter at all. Like I was still lifting regularly, but like in high school, I competed with my dad, but like I was never going to beat him. It was just depressing as a 16-year-old. We always had we had this contest of like who could put the most weight over their head. And he always spotted me 50 pounds. Right. And I'm sitting there like 16 years old and I've got 250 pounds over my head. I'm like, there's just no way he's going to beat me. He's like 50 years old. He's not going to beat me. Yeah. Well, he puts like 300 pounds over his head. I'm like, dude, like this isn't even fair.
That's my goal. My goal is to never let the kids beat me at anything. And then when they beat me, it's like, listen, you did it. You got it. You're good now. You can do some things.
Yeah. Luckily, I have 2 daughters, so it might be a hot minute before they beat me at lifting. Hopefully. God.
There you go. Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
You got to get back into it when they start getting strong. You're like, all right, listen.
I know.
You go back. I got to get everything into it. But,
oh my God! Once they're in high school, I got to find a way to get huge, right?
You have to. That's responsibilities as a dad. You got to have dad strength once they get into high school. You gotta
Yeah, they've got an uncle who played in the NFL. He was on a few practice squads, so like maybe I can just pull him in whenever he's huge.
There you go. That'll work. Awesome, man. So are you a guy that has like daily routines?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm
Explain that. Give me your morning.
no, I mean like I'm probably a creature of habit to a fault. Like I wake up at 5 o'clock, I go work out. I'm usually done working out by like 6:30, come upstairs, wake up the kids, make the lunches, get their breakfast out. My wife takes them out. Then I do like my morning work stuff. I've got like set time for social media. I've got set time for some of the like other projects that we're working on. I've got set time for individual customers. I take lunch at noon. I didn't do lunch at noon today, actually. My schedule's a little bit messed up, but yeah, like I have my days fairly well planned out, and then I usually go to bed by like 9:30 or 10.
Yeah, that's important. I think.
Yeah. What about you? You strike me as a structured person.
I am, but I don't like to stick the same structure. Like I'll have like maybe for 60 days I kind of keep this routine, and then another season comes up in my life and I need to switch over and just kind of switch up. But I will usually plan out my week on Sundays. So I know what my schedule is for the week, or my structure is for the week. But my structure's been pretty much the same for the past about 80 days. I did the 75 hard challenge.
Oh, that's right.
So it's been pretty spot on. It's been, wake up at 3:30 or 4, get ready, go to the gym. Gym's done.
3:30 or 4. Geez. What time do you go to bed for that?
Not when I should. Not when I should. So there'd be days where, I'd get in bed around noon or like midnight. That'd be tough. But I try to be working on sleep around 10:30.
Okay.
If I run off, 5 hours of sleep, I'm usually pretty good. That's pretty much what I did in college, and I've always been like that ever since.
Okay. Yeah. I gotta have 6 or 7. Or I don't function very well.
Oh, I function the best off of like a solid 8, right? 8 hours sleep, I'm ready to roll. Like that's when my body wakes up and is like, I don't need an alarm clock. But for me, just to get through the day, 5 hours. I can get through the day with 5 hours. A couple energy drinks, figure it out.
Yeah. I get that. So do you change up your workouts by season too?
Yeah, like I'll just get bored. So like they'll go through phases where like I want to gain weight and I want to, so I'm gonna lift a little heavier, take a little bit more time in between sets, maybe do more compound lifts. Then there'll be a time where I'll be like, I want my abs back. So now I'm gonna do a bunch of sets, high volume, not much rest in between. And there'll be times like, you know what, I just want to deadlift. I'll deadlift every day. Like I just go through different things. I've done a little bit of everything at this point. So it's just trying to keep me in the gym, which is the main thing. Like keep it motivating, a reason to show up. And I feel like goals and progression are the best way for me to do that. And I have to set them long. Like I have to be like, hey, this is a 30-day goal.
Yeah.
And then I know I'll be in the gym at least 5 days a week. But this 75 hard challenge, if you haven't tried it, I recommend it. It's pretty good. It's kind of monotonous at some points when the weekends you're like, man, if I don't walk right now, is it really that big of a deal? If I don't drink a gallon of water, is it that big of a deal? Well, no, it's not. You can just not do it and fail. But just beating it was fun. Beating it was a good challenge.
Okay. I'll check it out, man. I enjoy a good challenge. I told you last time, like I do this like 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge once a year before my birthday. It's fun. I recommend it. Fun's the wrong word, but like it's.
Yeah, I'd say at about, you say 10,000?
Yeah, you do 10,000 over the course of a month.
Ooh, I'd say at about 5,000. That lower back's got to be feeling a certain type of way. But
that's not too bad. Like if you get the right like swing technique in, it's really not that bad. It's like the grip strength is what kills you eventually.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
You got to flex the glutes. That's the key to the swing, right?
Yeah. I enjoy kettlebell swing stuff. Just because like I got a little home gym set up in my garage, and I live in a townhome in Chicago, so like you can imagine how small my area is. Yeah. So like I've just got some like adjustable dumbbell sets and kettlebells, and it gets the job done though.
That's enough to get the job done. Like you can do body weight stuff and get the job done. People try to come up with all these excuses. I don't have a gym membership. I can't get in. Dude, do some. If you just sit there and do 10,000 squats, I promise you're going to be.
Yeah, you'll feel it. Yeah.
Well, hey man, a question I like to ask everybody that comes on, by the end is, if you had one tip to give somebody trying to get into the industry, so we'll say freight brokering because you've done it and you're part of it. One tip, somebody coming to the industry, what would you give them as that tip?
Oh man, limiting it to one's going to be tough. I would say I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna do two things.
All right.
One is like just work hard and grind it out. You know, I mean, a lot of the industry, if you're gonna be successful, you're gonna be successful because you work hard and you put in the hours and you put in the phone calls. Because like that's one of the just key components of being successful in freight. And the second one is like learn as much as you can, and they go in tandem. So it's not like I'm cheating that much, because like the harder you work, the more people you talk to, the more time you put in, the more you're going to learn. And it's about like, it's not just about grinding it out for the sake of pounding out phone calls. It's about like grinding it out and actually learning from those phone calls. Like learn about the carriers that you're talking to, learn about your customers. And the more time you spend, learn about the industry. And the more time you spend doing that, the better you're going to get at everything.
No, I love that, because so many people do so much trying to get away from that. And those things are the X's and O's of a freight brokering business, and they're never going to go away. No matter how fancy this thing gets, no matter how automated this industry gets, you're never going to take away a personal relationship, picking up the phone and calling somebody, or going to see someone and talking through a problem. You're never going to replace it.
Like even talking to drivers, like I've learned more from drivers about the industry than like I can even describe. They're a huge source of information, and like the more you know, man.
Yeah. Well, some of your best brokers end up being former drivers, right?
Yeah.
Drivers that have a good work ethic that just don't want to be in a truck anymore. They know all the secrets.
Yeah. They know all the secrets. They know the terminology. They know the players. I'll never forget. Like one of my. Do we have time for me to share another anecdote here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I'll never forget. Like I used to ship some steel coils, and like my first time shipping steel coils, I'm calling up the shipper to kind of confirm dimensions and all the usual shit. And he goes, "Okay, do you want them loaded shotgun or suicide?" And I'm like, "What? Like shotgun? Like those both sound terrible. Are those my only options?" So like I had to have this dude explain to me like the difference between like how you load steel coils in different ways. And it was just some guy in the dock explaining to me how all this stuff worked. And I mean, like I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't sat there listening to this guy and asking questions.
Yeah. Well, and now you can take that and use it when you're talking to one of the shippers of the steel coils, and they're like, "Oh, this guy knows what he's talking about."
Yeah. Nail on the head. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on to the show. I know you're busy. We've been on this for about 30 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I think me and you are going to be getting together here in a week or a couple weeks and doing a little bit more stuff. But man,
yeah, man. No, I appreciate you having me on. I really had fun today.
Is there, me too. Is there any other way people can get in contact with you outside of LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn's a great way. I'm on there a lot. Feel free to message me, or if you want to shoot me an email, my email is nick@poweredbykinetic.com.
All right, Nick. Appreciate it, brother. We'll catch up with you next time. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, Gunnar.